What do you do when the person guarding your bedroom door is the same person selling your secrets to the highest bidder? Imagine the Golden King thinking the danger was over after the cameras were found, only to realize that the snakes are still sitting at his table wearing palace uniforms. Today, Olori has stopped playing games. She has released a list of 4 high-ranking traitors, and the land of the Golden Crown will never be the same. Let's quickly say a prayer. May every hidden Judas in your life, those who eat your salt but plot your fall, be exposed and disgraced today. May the fire of God's truth protect your home from every internal enemy. Amen. The land of the Golden Crown was still in a state of high tension. The discovery of the cameras around Queen Naomi's villa had left everyone looking over their shoulders. You see, my Crown Gist friends and families, when you find a snake in your garden, you don't just go back to sleep. You start looking for the hole where it crawled in. The air was fragile. The palace staff were walking on eggshells, and even the Golden King was sitting in a silence that was heavier than any shout. It was in this atmosphere of fear and suspicion that Olori made her most dangerous move yet. She knew that uprooting the eyes in the walls was only the beginning. The real wala was the people who gave those eyes a place to stay. She didn't come with technicians this time. She came with a list that would shatter the lives of 4 men who thought they were untouchable. She requested a closed-door session with the senior palace security and the highest custodians of the land. When she walked into the hall, the atmosphere changed instantly. She didn't look like someone who was there to beg. Her steps were firm, her voice was steady, and her eyes were fixed on justice. The Golden King was already pre-informed, watching from a distance, his heart ready for the truth, no matter how much it would sting. Olori stood before the council and spoke words that made the room go cold. She said, "We have removed the devices, but the hands that planted them are still here. We have banished the corrupt elders, but their spirits are still walking these corridors through the people we trust with our lives." She explained that there were people inside the palace who were still feeding information to those fallen elders, acting as double agents while wearing the royal livery. The first name she dropped was like a thunderclap. Now let me tell you who ADIO is so you understand why the room went silent. ADIO is the chief custodian of the palace access route. This man is the master of the map. He knows every secret door, every hidden path, and every blind spot where the palace guards don't reach. His job is to ensure that only authorized people move through sensitive areas. But Olori revealed a dark secret. She exposed that ADIO had been quietly passing the palace movement logs and timing patterns to one of the socially banished elders. Imagine the betrayal. While the Golden King trusted ADIO to keep the gates secure, ADIO was actually telling the enemies exactly when the guards will be changing shifts. He was the one who told them exactly when Queen Naomi would be most vulnerable. When his name was called, they say the man's legs turned to water. The chief of security looked at him in disbelief. A man they had greeted every morning for years, now exposed as a common informant. But Olori wasn't just there to catch one man, she was there to purge the house. She turned against the next person on her list, and the suspense in that room was enough to choke a giant. The people outside the room didn't know what was happening yet, but they could feel the ground shifting. The wahala that started with a few cameras was about to be a full-blown palace coup.
The silence in that room was so heavy. You could hear the sweat dropping from the foreheads of those who had things to hide. Olori's did not pause after mentioning Adion. She knew that if you want to kill a weed, you must pull out every single root. She cleared her throat and called the second name, Maureen. Now, Maureen was the royal record officer. He was the man in charge of all the internal memos, the secret letters, and the sensitive documents that moved between the Golden King and the other kingdoms. On the surface, Maureen was the most quiet and respectful man you could ever meet. He was the type who would bow his head so low you would think he was the humblest person in the land of the Golden Crown. But Olori's exposed the darkness behind that humble face. She revealed that Maureen had been making extra copies of the king's private discussions. Every time the Golden King sat with Dr. Elizabeth or the other Oloris to discuss how to move the palace forward, Maureen was there, recording the heart of the matter. He would then leak selected information to the fallen elders, keeping them informed about every internal discussion even after they had been banished from the palace. This was how the enemies knew exactly what the king was planning before he even announced it. Maureen was the breed that kept the banished elders connected to the throne they tried to destroy. But the atmosphere in the room turned from cold to freezing when she mentioned the third name, Sola. Sola was a technical maintenance officer. This is the man who knows the electrical layout of the entire palace like the back of his hand. He is the one who oversees the security installations. My Crownge's friends and families, this is where the puzzle of the hidden cameras finally came together. Olori's shadow revealed that Sola was the one who facilitated access for the outside technicians. When people saw strangers moving around Queen Naomi's villa with tools, they didn't challenge them because Sola had given them official maintenance permits. He signed off reports stating that they were just doing routine repairs or fixing electrical faults. Meanwhile, he was standing there watching them plant illegal surveillance cameras to monitor Queen Naomi's entrance, her garden, and even her private sitting area. He used his authority to hide the evil, making sure no alarm was ever raised. To think that a man trusted with the technical safety of the kingdom was the one who opened the door for their infidels. But the final name was the one that broke the heart of the Golden King. Olori's shadow took a deep breath and called out Babatunde. Babatunde was the head of night security. This is the man who is supposed to be the eye of the king while the palace sleeps. His authority covered every nighttime patrol and every emergency response after dark. Olori's shadow revealed that Babatunde had been deliberately reassigning, setting guards away from sensitive areas during the night. He would tell the guards to go and patrol the far things while he allowed unauthorized movement near Queen Naomi's villa. He was the one who ensured that the secret installations and the planting of those wicked cameras happened under the cover of darkness without any resistance. The man who was supposed to protect the palace at night was the one who made sure that darkness had a free pass. By the time Olori's shadow finished speaking, the palace felt like it was holding its breath. She looked at the council and said, "I have chosen silence once thinking they would protect peace, but I have learned that silence only protects corruption." She stood there, a woman transformed, while the 4 men she named sat there like statues of shame. The betrayer had lived so close for so long, eating from the same bowl and breathing the same air.
African Nigerian friends and families, the ground for the land of the golden crown don dey shake o. The moment of truth don finally land, and the way the golden king reacted, I swear nobody saw it coming. Let's get into the heat of the action as the palace gates began to close on the traitors. As the names of the 4 traitors echoed through the hall, the atmosphere became so thick with tension that you could almost feel it on your skin. The Golden King, who had been sitting in the shadows, finally stepped into the light. My Crownge's friends and families, I wish you could see his face. He didn't come out shouting like a man who had lost his mind. Instead, his silence was louder than 100 drums. It was the kind of silence that tells you a lion is about to strike. He looked at Adio, the man he trusted with the secret root of his home. He looked at Maureen, the man who held the royal records. He looked at Sola, the technical master, and Babatunde, the guardian of the night. These were not just employees. These were the pillars of his daily safety. To see them exposed as double agents for the fallen elders was like a dagger to the heart of the monarchy. Olori's shadow did not back down. She stood there, her eyes fixed on the traitors. She provided the evidence, the dates, the times, and the log that showed how these men had been communicating with the banished elders like Ogunjaye. She showed how they had used their palace influence to keep the Wahala alive even after the elders were sent away. The Golden King finally spoke, and his voice was low but heavy with authority. He didn't ask for a long trial. He didn't ask for explanations. He looked at the palace security and gave a simple 1-word command: arrest. The movement was immediate. The security team who had been standing at the doors moved in like a whirlwind. Adio was the first to feel the cold steel of the handcuffs on his wrists. The man who used to walk with his chest high as the chief custodian of palace roots suddenly looked like a common thief. He didn't even try to resist. His legs were shaking so much that the guards had to practically carry him out.
Then they moved to Maureen. This one was a different story. The humble record officer, the man who always bowed his head, finally woke. He fell to his knees, his forehead hitting the floor as he began to wail and cry. He started begging for mercy, shouting that it was the fallen elders who pressured him with money and threats. He tried to explain that he only did it to protect his family, but the guys didn't want to hear it. They hauled him up and led him away while his chair soaked the royal carpet. When it was Sola's turn, the technician tried to be a tough guy. He started to deny everything, shouting that the evidence was fake and that Olori Shadow was just trying to frame him because of her own past. But then, the security team brought out the digital logs he signed, the ones that proved he allowed the spy technicians into Queen Naomi's villa under false pretenses. His face went white. The tough guy act melted away instantly as he went quiet, his head dropping in shame as he was marched out of the hall. But Baba Sunday, the head of 9 security, was the most chilling of them all. He didn't cry, he didn't deny it, he just stood there, his face blank like a stone mask. He looked the Golden King in the eye with a coldness that made everyone shiver. This was a man who had sold his soul completely to the enemies of the crown. As they led him away, he didn't say a word, but the betrayal in his eyes was enough to show that the rot in the palace had gone deeper than anyone ever imagined. The news of the arrest spread through the land of the Golden Crown like a wildfire. Palace staff was standing in groups, some crying, some shouting in anger. They couldn't believe that the men they greeted every morning, the men they shared meals with, were the same ones selling their security to the highest bidder. The realization hit everyone. If these high-ranking men can be traitors, who else is hiding his secrets? The Golden King ordered a full security audit immediately. Every department, every officer, and every single access card was to be reviewed. The era of assuming loyalty was officially over. He looked at Olori Shadow, and for the first time in a long time, there was a glimmer of respect in his eyes. She had done what no one else could do. She had cleaned the house from the inside out. But as the 4 men were locked in the palace cells, a no fear began to grow. If these 4 were just the agents, what other wahala have the fallen elders planned? And how will Queen Naomi feel knowing that the very guards who were supposed to protect her were the ones who watched her slip through those hidden cameras?
The palace of the land of the Golden Crown was like a marketplace of shock. You could see the guards whispering, the maids crying, and the cooks standing with their hands on their heads. 4 of the most powerful staff members, Adio, Maureen, Sola, and Babatunde, had been led away in handcuffs like common criminals. The people they used to boss around were now the ones watching them go into the dark cells of the palace. The Golden King did not stop there. He knew that if you cut the head of a snake but leave the body, the tail can still hit you. He ordered that every single person connected to these 4 men be questioned. He wanted to know how deep the wahala went. He was no longer the quiet lion. He was the lion on the hunt. He made it clear that anyone, no matter how high or low, who was found to be in communication with those fallen elders like Ogunjaye would face the same fate. Olori Shadow stood by the side, watching the house being cleaned. For her, this was her final sacrifice to prove that her heart had truly returned to the palace. She had lost her former friends and her secret allies, but she had gained something better. The truth? She looked at the pile of cameras that had been uprooted and the empty offices of the traitors, and she knew that the land of the Golden Crown was finally becoming a home again, not a battlefield. When the news reached Queen Naomi, they said the woman of grace simply went on her knees. She didn't jubilate because people were arrested. She prayed because the invisible eyes that had been monitoring her life were finally closed. The fear she had been feeling in her own garden, the feeling that she was never truly alone, it was finally gone. The Golden King visited her villa that evening, not as a king, but as a man who was deeply sorry that the people he paid to protect her were the ones who invaded her privacy. The fallen elders outside the palace are now in total panic. Their ears inside the palace have been cut off, their eyes have been plucked out, and they are now truly isolated, sitting in their own homes, knowing that their names are being dragged through the mud of disgrace. They tried to use money to buy the kingdom, but they forgot that loyalty to the crown is something that money cannot sustain forever. As for the 4 arrested staff,
staff. The report says they are singing like birds in the cell. They are mentioning even more names, trying to save their own necks. But the golden king is not in a forgiving mood. He has ordered a total overhaul of the palace system. New faces, new rules, and a new level of loyalty that will be tested every single day. The land of the golden crown is finally breathing, and the wahala of the double agent has reached its final bus stop. Now, my Crown Grease friends and families, we have reached the end of this update. But remember what I always tell you. Everything you have heard here today is based on alleged and unverified information making the rounds on social media. These are social media rumors and should not be taken as absolute facts until the palace releases an official statement. We are just here to give you the gist as it is dropping on the streets. Thank you for being part of the Crown Gist family. If you enjoyed this ride, make sure you are subscribed and your notification bell is on.